Well, joining us to discuss these comments from the Kremlin and the wider situation at play is Marianne Duris, a foreign affairs expert who joins us from Brussels. Marianne, thank you very much for joining us. I do want to bring it back to the comments made by Emmanuel Macron and looking at the European unity at the moment as a whole before we move on to what the Kremlin are saying. Looking at the increase in defence spending, looking at the potential nuclear umbrella that has been suggested, is Europe in any way wrong in suggesting this, given the instability in the region currently?
Yeah, thank you for the question. So the topic, what we have before us, so there is some kind of European defense fund, what you mentioned about spending for more or militarization and more weapons, ammunition and so on. It was proposed by Ursula von der Leyen, which is President of European Commission. She proposed this kind of plan for 800 billion euros, which is quite unusually high price for this kind, because European Union had kind of loans during COVID times. European Union wanted to invest in the Green Deal for 500 billion euros, and now we have this kind of planned budget for weapons, ammunition, and so-called sovereignization or more European autonomy in case of defense and then security. If it's good plan, I would say there will be much tensions inside the European Union around details of this plan, which was not still announced. There is some just general idea, and I think there are many countries with different interests in sense of defense, in sense of the security, because in European Union, you have some countries which are on the eastern part, which are more close to conflict in Ukraine, and you have countries, for example, like Spain and Portugal, which are quite far from this conflict. So in this sense, and not only in this sense, but maybe in the idea of reconstruction of finance in European Union, I think there will be much of tension and debates about real happening and real fulfilling of this plan.
Yes, Marian, now moving to the Kremlin's comments, they have alleged that the EU's controversial rhetoric on Russia has caused, of course, concern for them. What is Russia unhappy with in Europe's eyes, the European mind, is that Russia has invaded Ukraine, and the EU are now looking to not just support Ukraine but also protect themselves. Why is Russia unhappy with this view from Europe?
I would say this is kind of standard reaction from Russian administration on policies or ideas of so-called European leaders, like we saw in London summit from Mr. Starmer, from Mr. Macron, from Mr. Zelensky, and Ms. von der Leyen or Ms. Kallas, for example. I think that's the standard reaction on their plans, the future. I would say this kind of ideas like defense spending, really high defense spending, and this very different rhetoric than have, for example, United States and Russia, who are negotiating in Riyadh, in Istanbul, and now negotiating, and maybe there will be another kind of summit or format. Europe tries to make some own position in this way, but I would say Europe should more be helpful in this case, should be more helpful to this kind of first league summits, what consists from United States and Russia, and not criticize them because some leaders from Europe were not invited. I would say European leaders should give more signals, more peaceful signals, like, for example, Viktor Orban makes some statements that we need peace, Europe needs peace. I think all world needs peace, but of course there is not so many leaders who are saying about peace, and I think this is what we need.
Yes, and finally, looking at Russia and their conversations that they want to be had with the US over nuclear weapons and nuclear arms control. What do you think Russia wants out of this dialogue? We know Russia and the US by far have the most nuclear weapons out of any nation, but what do you think they want specifically out of those discussions and moving towards next year when the current nuclear arms deals end?
When the United States and Russia are talking together, so they are likely to get some kind of deal, or maybe there must be some kind of mutual trust in this sense as well. Not only about guarantees in the war in Ukraine, but as well what about the guarantees in nuclear sense. When we heard, for example, Emmanuel Macron with his plan to make some kind of umbrella above Europe, with nuclear umbrella, so I don't know if it's a good idea, because Russia, of course, and obviously Russia does not trust to this kind of leader, who by the way probably will not be president so long, because he cannot be candidate again, and I don't know if it's good idea in this sense to make some new security architecture, new security ideas, and without consideration of opinions. Russian Federation, United States like a strong partner of Europe. If Mr. Macron wants to make it individually, maybe on the expense of other countries of Europe, so I think it's not good idea. I think it's the beginning of some kind of fight between countries in Europe for to be the main power in Europe after the conflict in Ukraine. And this fight probably will be between France, between Germany and Poland as a main power in Central Europe. So this is the first try. This is the first try by French president. And I think there will be some reactions from Germany and Poland in this sense, and European Union as well. And what will Russia say about it? I'm sure that they will not agree with some kind of very hawkish or very militarized ideas in Europe, which are not told with them.
Marian Duris, thank you very much for providing your insight.